The DNA of modern Mexicans is so complex that it seems to come from several continents at once. A single person from Oaxaca may carry genetic traces of Ice Age hunters and gatherers, of Amazonian peoples, medieval Spaniards, and West Africans, all coexisting within. Researchers today say that Mexican DNA is among the most unique in the world. But what makes it so special, and how did it come to be? That's exactly what we're about to explore. From the first humans who roamed ancient Mesoamerica to the rise of mighty civilizations and the impact of conquest, this is the story of how geography, endurance, and cultural collisions shaped one of the most genetically rich regions on Earth. Before we begin, I'm working toward reaching 1,000 subscribers on this small channel. If you'd like to support me, please subscribe. Now let's dive into a genetic mystery that's been unfolding for thousands of years. Long before the pyramids rose from the jungles of Palenque, or the empires ruled from Tenochtitlan, ancient humans were already leaving their genetic mark on the land we now call Mexico. Around 15,000 years ago, the first people crossed into the Americas, probably from Siberia over the Bering Land Bridge, following herds and hunting across the continent. Some eventually settled in the valleys, deserts, and forests of Mesoamerica. These Ice Age peoples lived off the land, hunting mammoths, gathering wild plants, and adapting to vastly different environments. Over thousands of years, their DNA evolved in isolation, forming regional genetic signatures that can still be detected today. In central Mexico, the first farmers began to domesticate maize, squash, and beans, sparking a food revolution that reshaped both their lives and their genes. The shift from a nomadic existence to settled agriculture left a deep biological imprint, and over time, these societies became some of the most advanced indigenous civilizations in the world. What's remarkable is that those ancient genes never vanished. They endured. In mountain villages, jungle clearings, and coastal settlements, the echoes of that Ice Age ancestry are still alive, buried not just in ruins, but in the blood of the people who live there today. If you traveled across Mexico analyzing the DNA of indigenous groups from state to state, the results would astonish you. Scientists have already done this, and their findings challenge everything we thought we knew about genetics within a single country. Some indigenous populations in Mexico differ from one another as much as Europeans do from East Asians. And that's no exaggeration. A pioneering study by Mexican researchers, known as La Corte Maze, analyzed over 1,000 individuals from 60 distinct ethnic groups. What they found was striking. Mexico is not just genetically diverse, it's genetically fragmented. Isolated peoples like the Seris of Sonora or the Lacandones of Chiapas hold unique genetic signatures that have evolved independently for thousands of years. Mexico's rugged landscape, its sharp mountains, vast deserts, and dense rainforests acted as a network of natural barriers, keeping populations apart long enough for distinct ancestries to form. There was never a single indigenous identity, but a mosaic woven from dozens of ancient threads. Even today, in regions untouched by large-scale modernization, people preserve lineages that trace back to ancestors who never mixed with nearby groups, even those just a few hundred miles away. Beyond these differences, some genes appear to come from mysterious, unknown populations. Researchers have even detected evidence of a ghost population in certain Mexican indigenous groups, an ancestral source that matches no known ancient genome. No one knows who they were or where they came from, but their legacy endures, woven into the DNA of people alive today. So when we say Mexican DNA is unusual, we don't just mean diverse, we mean it carries secrets, some still buried deep in the genetic code, waiting to be uncovered. When Spanish ships reached Mexico's shores at the beginning of the 16th century, they brought not only weapons, horses, and disease, but also an irreversible genetic wave. In just a few generations, Mexico's DNA changed more dramatically than it had in millennia. Spanish colonizers, indigenous peoples, and enslaved Africans collided. And from that collision, something new emerged: the mestizo population. But this wasn't a simple blend. It was a tangled process of conquest, resistance, adaptation, and survival. Genetic studies show that today the average Mexican carries a mix of Native American, European, and African ancestry, though the proportions vary widely by region. In the South and Southeast, indigenous heritage, often makes up more than 80% of the genome, especially in states like Oaxaca and Chiapas. In contrast, in the north and west, European ancestry can make up nearly half. African roots, though less common, remain visible, particularly along coastal areas like Veracruz and Guerrero, where enslaved Africans were brought during colonial times. Gender played a decisive role too. The DNA reveals a pattern common across Latin America. European men and indigenous or African women formed the foundation of colonial ancestry. This means that most Mexicans today descend from native or enslaved mothers and colonizing fathers. It's a harsh truth written in the chromosomes, but also a testament to endurance and strength, the foundation of modern Mexican identity. Every cell in the mestizo genome tells a story of resilience, how indigenous bloodlines managed to survive against all odds, blending without vanishing, changing without truly fading. Even today, the proportions and distribution of this mixture reveal more about the past than many history books ever could. Mexico is not just a nation, it's a bridge, geographically, genetically, and culturally. Positioned between North and Central America, bordered by two oceans and divided by mountain ranges, its landscape has always shaped how people moved, settled, and intertwined. Some regions became genetic crossroads where different ancestries merged. Others remained isolated, preserving ancient DNA like biological time capsules. Think of central Mexico, where ancient trade routes once connected the great Aztec capital of Tenochtitlan with distant corners of Mesoamerica. Along those routes flowed goods, languages, and genes. Meanwhile, indigenous communities in the Sierra Madre or the Lacandon jungle remained largely untouched by conquest or migration. That's why some people in remote villages still carry DNA almost identical to that of their ancestors thousands of years ago, as if time itself had barely touched their genetic legacy. In recent years, researchers from Mexico's National Biobank have undertaken one of the most ambitious genetic projects in Latin American history. By studying thousands of individuals across the country, they've revealed just how intricate Mexico's genetic diversity truly is. It's not only possible to tell if someone's ancestry is indigenous. Often, you can pinpoint which region they come from, even down to specific states or linguistic groups. In other words, Mexican DNA doesn't just say Mexican, it tells a story. Whether your ancestors crossed deserts, fished in coastal lagoons, grew maize in the highlands, or hunted in the jungles. Geography didn't just shape culture, it shaped bloodlines, and those patterns still ripple through the Mexican genome like ancient fault lines beneath the surface. So what exactly makes Mexican DNA among the strangest in the world? It's not just the diversity, it's the layers. Mexico isn't a melting pot, it's a mosaic, a place where Ice Age ancestors, ancient civilizations, colonial conquests, and isolated tribes all left traces still visible in living people. Unlike other regions where waves of migration erased the past, Mexico managed to preserve its genetic history, stacked like geological layers. Within a single person's DNA, you might find the legacy of a woman from an Olmec farming village, the Y chromosome of a Spanish conquistador, and a mitochondrial strand tracing back to an African ancestor who survived the Middle Passage. Some scientists have even found genetic links between indigenous Mexicans and ancient populations from Southeast Asia and the Pacific, perhaps remnants of forgotten trade or migration routes. In certain highland communities, rare genetic variants have survived for thousands of years, showing almost no outside influence. This makes Mexico a true treasure trove for geneticists, anthropologists, and historians alike. Nowhere else on Earth holds such an unbroken chain of human movement, mixture, and survival. Mexican DNA isn't just unusual. It's a living fossil, a timeline written in the body, whispering truths that history never recorded. From Ice Age wanderers to empires carved in stone, from coastal traders to colonizers and survivors, Mexico's DNA is a record of everything that happened when worlds collided and cultures endured. It isn't clean or simple, but it's real. In every strand are voices that never made it into textbooks, mothers, hunters, kings, and rebels. Before we finish, I'm still working to reach my first 1,000 subscribers as a small creator. If you'd like to support me, please subscribe. And if the idea that your blood holds memories older than your name fascinates you, give it a like, leave a comment, and stay tuned. because the past lives within you.